Okay.
All right. Welcome. So I'm Max Paquette. This is a Memphis Youth Athletics Coaches Chat. And specifically today, we'll talk about progression. And we have James West here with us, who's going to be fielding some questions. And I'll talk about his progression. James is British. He's been competing for a long time.
Yeah.
Really cool progression. And that's really what I want to get to. To show you guys his progression, and we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty details of that. But James just finished at University of Oregon last fall. He's currently in Flagstaff. We're together in person because we've been living in the same house now for over a month. He's training here at altitude, and my wife Lauren is living in the same house that they're both renting from Steph Bruce and Ben Bruce. So yeah, let's get started. So James, I guess the first thing is just kind of want to talk about your background a bit, and you know, what sort of what life was for you as a kid in England, and how you got into running, if you played other sports and things like that.
I was a very sporty guy when I was young, as most runners are, I guess, at that young age. Big football fan. So I played football first before I even ran. Started from a young age, and I've always been a big Man United fan. So I played at academy level to like 12, 13 years of age before I started running for my school, my high school, when I went there when I was 13.
So you were playing soccer and running?
Yes, just at the start. So I got scouted or picked up at a local high school meet. I came like second in a cross-country meet for the school. And, you know, you have some of the local coaches there, and one of them invited me to come down to a club night for Medway Maidstone. And I really enjoyed it straight off the bat, really. I just liked the whole individual side of running. And football at that point, I was very small, which we'll talk about a bit later, but I was playing at a good level in football. I was playing against some of the boys in London, and they were big kids when they were 13, and I was very, very small. So my dad kind of pushed me to make a decision on what one I preferred. And at that point in time, I preferred playing or running rather than football, even though I preferred, you know, the sport of football. Right. But I preferred actually doing track. And I decided to stop football at 13 and just go solely into running. And that's when it started, yeah.
Cool. And was your family like a football background or track, or no?
My dad played basketball for England.
Wow. I know that's
for a bit. Yeah, he played basketball. My mum wasn't particularly sporty, but my dad pushed me a lot in sport, and they used to take me around everywhere for football. So without them, I definitely wouldn't be where I am right now. They were very supportive on that. But yeah, not a super sporty family or anything.
I got you.
Yeah.
So I didn't know your dad played basketball. So it's like, so I don't know much about basketball in England, but there's different levels.
It's not NBA, but you know, he played for England for a few years, senior level, I believe, and he stopped quite soon, unfortunately, due to me and my sister coming in, which I guess, you know, took up a lot more of his time.
So you gave up football.
Yeah.
So for American listeners, that's soccer, obviously.
Soccer, yeah.
And you gave up football, and then, but now you're at pretty high level, like e-football, right? Digital or gaming.
I'm good at FIFA. Yeah. I don't play it too much. Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't say I'm like right up there in the world or anything.
There you go. If you guys want to play against James, his video game name,
Little Jimmy West.
Little Jimmy West.
Back in the day I kept it when I was 12.
So check him out on the gaming consoles. I don't know anything about that, so I don't know what I'm saying. But, all right, so let's get right into your progression. I've shared this figure I'm about to share with the video here with a bunch of people who are track lovers and stats lovers of track. And your progression to me was so, I love figures and graphs, and so this one looked so clean and clear, and so I just loved making it, and I loved sharing it with people. But let me share the screen real quick. So right here this is James's progression. So let me orient you guys to this figure here. So on this axis here is 1,500 meter times. Okay, so obviously 4:53 on the 3:27, which is just above the world record. So not quite there yet, but potentially soon. The x-axis here, pardon my poor titling, but this should say age in years. Okay, so 12 to 23. James is now 24. We're a year later than when he ran 3:35 last year. Didn't get to compete outdoors, of course, in the NCAA this year due to the virus pandemic. And then so the time progression is highlighted in the green line here. So every dot is a new personal or seasonal best, which for James, that was basically a personal best every time, which is part of why I like this progression so well. And then the orange bars, which is from the y-axis on the right here, that's the average weekly mileage per year that James sort of estimated based on what he remembered from his training. So estimations, but likely pretty consistent. So let's start from the start, I guess.
Yeah.
12 to 14, so pre-high school.
Yeah.
Your first 1500, or at least that year, your best was 443.
Yep.
Then you went as a 13-year-old 438. Again, this is a 1500, not a mile. Important to understand that there's kids that are running this fast in middle school, and this is a 1500, so 109 meters less than a mile. 443, 438, and then 421. So, so what, like you mentioned, you joined the club. Like, how often were you training? Obviously, like there's no records of like when you were 12 or 13, like how much you ran, but like talk us through your training then.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember the start actually a little bit better than the middle 15, 16 age groups, because I remember getting in. So I started about August time when I was 13, and I'd only been running a couple of months. And this is the reason I really got into the sport, because I went and won the Kent County Champs in 4:43.1, which was, I'd only been running a couple of months, and I won that's like our county champs.
Yeah, sure.
And I won it in a championship record. And then after that, we thought, well, maybe I'm not too bad at this. Let's give it a go. So I was probably only training 2 nights a week at that point, Tuesday, Thursdays, just for fun and finding out if I really enjoyed the sport. And then as I dropped football at 13 years old, we started to take it a little bit more serious. And I'd say in that 14-year-old age group, I was probably maybe still doing the Tuesday, Thursdays with 1 or 2 extra runs a week, not much at all. Probably, like I said, I think it was about 20 to 25 miles at 14, and maybe then 35 at 15 with probably no doubling or anything at that age group, nowhere near, just the odd run, maybe 2-3 times a week, and the sessions on Tuesday, Thursdays.
Gotcha.
And I was very small. I hadn't hit puberty till later, which we can talk about. But yeah, I mean, they're not super impressive times at all. And I remember to get to English schools, which is our sort of, I mean, it's our national meet, national school meet. You had to run for that 4:21 time there. I was just scraping getting in.
Right, so when you were 14 here, roughly.
Yeah,
right,
like
4:21.
I was not one of the best at all.
Yeah.
That was hard. I think the time might have even been around that just to get in.
And those and those club sessions that you're doing, what did that look like? Is that just intervals? Or?
Yeah, just the odd interval, like fun mostly. But yeah, you're looking at maybe 2 minutes on, minute off stuff, 600, some 6 reps, 8 reps.
Gotcha.
Probably not even that long, but yeah.
So then, fun, really. So when was grade 9? I guess 15 years 15. Old. Yeah. So then you ran 4:14 here, and then the next year at 16, you went from 4:14 down to 3:56 when you were 16. So talk us through this jump here. That's about a roughly just under 8% jump in performance here.
So I actually, from 15 to 16, I changed club. I went to Tunbridge, which at the time I spoke to you about the other day as well, was the club where I'd pretty much be against all of the boys from Tunbridge. They were a good club at the time. They had a lot of good youngsters.
Yeah, before you joined, you compete against them.
Yeah, I'd always compete, And we decided, my dad made the call as well to move to Tunbridge. It wasn't too far away, a little bit further. But if I wanted to improve, I needed to train with better guys. And Medway was struggling at the time as a club. It didn't have many guys. So I moved to Tunbridge. And my training sessions, immediately the intensity and the level improved a lot by training with guys who are running quicker than me.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's probably where the jump. I wouldn't say I increased the amount of mileage massively, but just training at that age, training with better guys is huge.
And talk a bit about, you mentioned this a bit already, but you mentioned that from 15 to 16, you had a massive physical change.
Yeah,
like you were small and you kind of grew and puberty and all that.
Yeah, I didn't get a photo for you in the end, but maybe we can have that in later. I had long hair. I looked like a little girl when I was 15 years old, and 16 I started to go through puberty. I was pretty late in school for that, and I started to grow. I don't know how much I grew, but probably from 5'2" to maybe 5'6" or something over a couple of years. So it was a pretty quick growth, and that's definitely where the progression really came. And I remember when I was running against kids, other guys. I remember Sean was a guy I ran against. He ran 1:48 when he was 16, and I was running 2-0 something at that age, not even close. So it was tough to compete against those guys when I was so far behind. But my dad always tried to remind me to stay patient in that you just can't compete with those guys yet. They're just maturation-wise too far ahead.
Sure.
But it will all level out.
Yeah, so it goes to show, like, in high school, so much of it, like you obviously had a big jump, like, 421 to 414 is solid. Then 414 to 356.
Yeah.
So 356 is about a 413 mile, maybe something like that, right? So it's solid. Like, as a 16-year-old, you run that's a grade 11, I suppose, or almost grade 11. You run 430 in the US, like, you're pretty solid,
Yeah.
and so that was obviously a massive jump. And then the next year you went 348, 1500.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, that's about a 406 ish.
Yeah, that's when things we started to hit where we wanted to get to at that age, and the training did increase. I started to take it more seriously at that point because we always knew it. Even at 18 years old, we knew Seb Coe and Steve Cram were competing for GB senior teams. And I wasn't anywhere near that at that stage, but that's where we thought we needed to be or get close to if I wanted to ever make it professionally.
Yeah.
So the training up to maybe 50 miles a week. I was starting to run probably every day. I mean, that's 17 years old. So that's my final year in high school, or penultimate year.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably running every day.
Yeah.
With a rest day at that point and 2 sessions a week.
Gotcha.
But only 50 miles a week.
So 2 workouts a week, 6 total sessions.
Yeah.
A day off every week. Basically.
Yeah.
So I think that goes to show. I think a lot of coaches in the US at least will say, like, you need to run every day. Like, an off day can still be like 30 minutes of easy running, but, like, you can see here that even taking a day off a week, you're still able to run 406 in a mile, right?
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is that jump from when you were 16, so you're 16 now, you grow, you get stronger, of course, you like more muscular, all this stuff, testosterone, everything else. And then that gives you a full year to start, like, really kind of handling training more, and then you make that massive jump to 348, which is really, really impressive. All right. So then, this is your final year, I guess, in this stage in high school. So you ran 348, 349 in high school. Then you followed a different path than most kids in the NCAA, where you, being from England, you actually went to school, in your backyard, right? At Loughborough University.
Yeah.
And then so you did your undergrad there.
Yeah. So I think that 349 year is my final year in high school.
Right.
I started
18 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, 18. So I started to double on Tuesday, Thursday mornings. I remember not enjoying it, but getting up before school trying to do that.
Just couldn't sleep in.
Yeah, I just couldn't sleep in, and I was so tired every morning. But what was funny about that 348.5, I remember that year because we went on holiday. This going back 1 year to 17. Yeah. We went on holiday to Greece or something, and I decided to run. It was so hot. Me and my dad ran every other day, just like 40-minute run, pretty hard. It was pretty hard run every day. And I'd never really done that before, where we just run before because my mileage wasn't very high. Yeah. I came back, ran a race at Watford and ran like a 4-second PR, 348, and went to like #1 in the country for like 18 or something. And it was just funny really because we only ran like every other day. And so it's searing like heat.
So that's an interesting tidbit, because pretty much you had been training regularly, six times a week, like pretty well orchestrated training, and then you go on vacation, holiday, and you're probably pretty relaxed, pretty chill.
Yeah, right? Swam every day kind of thing.
No expectations. You come back and PR about
it. And I just got so fit in the heat and just the mileage.
So I was going to bring this up a bit later, but that just sort of brings me to the point that, like, you're a very laid back guy. Like, we talked about this before. Like, you're not taking things like extremely seriously to the point where like you get anxious. No, right. So we talked about like being relaxed. So like, what do you have to say about kind of that attitude?
Yeah, I think it's obviously, we spoke about it the other day in the car as well. I guess it's what works for you, of course, still. But I'm really relaxed. Like my diet, I eat well, but if I want a pizza on a Wednesday night, I'll have a pizza. If I want a couple of beers with that, I'll have a couple of beers. And I think that's being comfortable in knowing what works for you. And I don't get too touchy on things like that, what I eat, because I know at the end of the day that's not going to affect my performance at all. Those are really, really minor things. And in fact, being relaxed about those things is what gets you actually better.
Sure.
Because you're not uptight, you're not stressed about your diet. I mean, if you're eating chips and stuff like that all day, yes, that's not going to help. I mean, that's poor diet. But you know, if you want to have a donut or something like that, and you want a snack, that's absolutely fine. You've got to be comfortable having that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you start getting uptight about those kind of things, those little things, that's when the problems start to come.
It sort of adds anxiety and stress, right?
Yeah.
That affect everything else. So basically, what you're saying is as long as, like, you know, you're being sensible with your eating, but at the same time you're not limiting yourself. Like, if you want to enjoy something, just do it. Right?
Just do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's good. Tuesdays I have my big training days, and I normally have a pizza most Tuesday night and a beer. Because it's like,
you
kind of like,
right?
just want to relax, get a good night's sleep.
And I noticed, we did an easy run the other day. Well, you guys did an easy run. I was along for the ride. It was more like a tempo for me. But, I noticed, like, even then, like, it's an easy run. Like, you're at the highest of levels in the world of middle distance running. And you just really hanging out, easy run. Not really worrying about pace. We're on the mailboxes, dirt road, and just off of Lake Mary Road, and you were just kind of, you and Lauren just hanging out. The dog out there is really back. And
I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned over the last couple of years. I think that's part of why I've got to the higher level over those 2 years. And that's just learning that, like, a few years back, I'd always be so worried about pace. Every run would have to be under 7-minute miling. You had to be working hard all the time. And I've realized, like, working hard all the time is really, like, not a good, that doesn't work.
What made you realize that, though?
I think just difficult, really. I think moving to the high level of racing and seeing how other people performed and how they trained, and just listening to my body, like, maybe some weeks I'd take an easier run and realize my session was considerably better, or my race was better because of it. And my body just started to realize, and mentally I started to know what worked for me. And again, it's not being stressed about that. Like, going for a run with you and Lauren the other day, it was like 7:20, 7:30 miling. It was the off day. It's time on your feet.
Yeah.
And if you're fine with running at 7:30 mentally, and that's not gonna, when you come back that evening, you're not gonna be stressed about that. And that's what's key, because if you're stressed about that night, that's going to affect you the next day.
I love that, what you say about, like, if in your mind you think that an easy run pace should be a certain pace, but you don't hit it, that makes you anxious. That becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And I think, in my experience, at least in the US, it seems that is the case. Like, that is the thing that makes people run fast, is that the belief that you need to run fast.
Yeah. I mean, we went for a run the other day with Sam and Kieran Leonard over at A1, and on the way back we were running too quick for me, and I just said, like, let's just slow it down. We were like it was only 6:40, but we wanted an easy run. It was a Wednesday easy run, 10 miler, and we were getting down to 6:40, 6:30, and I just started driving back and told them to just chill. Like, we got sessions coming up.
So just to point this out, this is a 3:35 guy who just said 6:40 was too fast. Right? So if you're a 4-minute 1500 meter guy, and you think that, like, 7 minutes is too slow, this is, again, a 3:35 guy who says 6:40 is too fast. Right? So slow it down when you need to. Is the moral of the story here.
And the sessions go as hard as you like. I mean, you don't want to be killing those either, because you want to save that for race day. That's also really important.
Yeah.
I mean, someone told me a while ago, sessions should be B+ and A-, and race days should be A+.
Yeah.
And I've learned that the last couple of years as well. Sessions shouldn't be balls out. Your last rep should not be flat out.
You got a shout out for who said that?
My Tunbridge coach said that. Mark Cookway helped me a lot. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah. Workout should be B+, A-, races A+.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the notes.
Keep it in control. Yeah.
So all right. So we kind of skipped ahead a bit, but you graduated Loughborough as your bachelor's degree. Or no, they call it something else, right?
Yeah, it was a BA. It was a BA.
Bachelor's, and it's 3 years, right?
It was 3 years, yeah.
Unless you do a placement, which is 4 years.
Yeah.
So you were able to finish from basically when you were 18 to when you were 20 or 30 or 21.
Yep.
To finish your bachelor's degree, and then you decided to go to the NCAA, right?
Yeah.
Because you still have 2 years left, given your time spent at Loughborough.
Yeah.
So what made you decide at this point? What made you feel like you had to go to the NCAA at this point?
Yeah, I'd done 3:39 coming out in my final year at Loughborough.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this before as well. It's that middle ground. It's not an elite time. Well, it's an elite time, but we're not talking anywhere near world class.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting any support from British athletics.
Yeah.
It's not fast enough. And it was a decision to what do we really do at that point? We'd probably I couldn't go pro, wasn't quick enough to get a contract. And like I said, I wasn't getting any support from them. So the next best option was to look at the NCAA and see if I could go somewhere and improve through the system, because I know Chris O'Hare went through the system, worked really well for him. And it's as close to world-class running as you're going to get for a collegiate system. The UK doesn't come anywhere near to the NCAA. It's called Bucks in the UK, which is British University Championships. Just not even close to the level of the NCAA.
I think it's the same in a bunch of other countries. Coincidentally in the Commonwealth, Australia got the university games. Canada's got youth sports, which is kind of like the NCAA, probably the closest to NCAA, but still not on the same level. If the competition is good, it's, you get some guys that'll run in the low 340s, and women will go 14s, low 14s, but it's not the NCAA.
And I remember I reached out to Andy Powell and I'd run 348. I emailed him, got no response when I was 18.
He's the Oregon coach.
Yeah, Andy Powell. Yeah. My first year, he was the coach. Got no response when I was 18, running 348, and I reached out again when I ran 339, and I got a response back, and I went and visited that Feb, and I really liked it. I knew it was immediately the place where I was going to get better.
So you did reach out after high school.
Yes.
And you didn't get any sort of any bites.
Nope.
And so you decided, you know what, I'm just going to stay here and continue my progression here in the UK. And then once you thought that you were better and good enough, you did.
Yeah, I think even at 18, if Oregon had come back to me then, that would have been a really tough decision, because I don't think going to the NCAA when you're 18 is the best idea from a foreign.
For a foreigner,
I mean, if you look at the number of people who've gone at 18 and struggled, because the adjustment from home to university is big enough. Anyway, cooking yourself, looking after yourself, doing your laundry, stuff you don't know. You go to America when there's an 8-hour time difference, where you're not a train ride home. You're not coming home soon.
You're never a train ride home in the US.
So it's, it would have been a huge move, but I don't think I'd have been ready for it. And so I'm glad we went to Loughborough, which again is a really good uni in the UK for sport. And then Oregon, I never even looked at another school in the NCAA. That was the other thing as well. Like, it was, I don't know what I'd have done if Oregon hadn't said yes, because maybe I'd gone somewhere else, but I wasn't interested in anywhere else at all. To me, Oregon was number one, and it was like a dream. I remember watching like Steve Prefontaine, like the film, when I was like 18, and getting into things like that. And Oregon's like history was incredible. So I couldn't believe I ended up there really when I was 21.
So there's no thought about NAU or BYU or something like that?
Didn't even know who NAU were. Didn't even know BYU. The only other one was Florida State, because they had a UK connection. So it was normally schools like that who had a UK connection that's why they get the Brits, because we don't really know about the BYU's NAUs. Like if a Brit doesn't go there, there's no connection there to the UK.
For sure.
So there's some very international schools like FSU, Lamar, some random schools like that, Tulsa, and that's where a lot of the Brits go because of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, and so it just fascinates me that you weren't quite. Obviously, you had run 339 at this point, or sorry, 348 at this point. So you could have gone somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you could have come to the US somewhere, and but it wasn't on your radar, and you're just going to stick to the UK and do your thing. And so I think it's something for kids that are listening to think about, where like you might not get into your dream school right away.
Yeah.
Or, you might go to like in the US if you're in college, or even like another school somewhere, and you don't necessarily need to compete. You can just continue getting better. I think there's a culture where you have to go to the NCAA out of high school if you're going to compete in the NCAA. Like there's no other option.
Yeah.
So go to a school that is okay, but you might get a bit of scholarship, and then like if you get better, you transfer. Which I hate that, in the sense that you're not taking advantage of a school, but you're going somewhere knowing that if you get better, you're going to go elsewhere. Right. So I like the fact that you didn't even bother associating with an American university. You just kind of stuck with the plan, and that's great. So then, all right. So now you're in Eugene, right? You fly across the Atlantic, fly across the country. You land in Eugene. So what was that like for again, like a more mature than most, because you had already gone through college or university as an undergrad. So now you're 21.
Yeah.
You get to the US. Like, what's that? What was that change like for you? Both like culturally, but also like athletically.
It was a rough start for sure. Yeah. It was a rough start. it threw me in the deep end pretty hard. I wasn't really ready for the adjustment. The time change was tough. Settling in was hard to start with. I had a terrible cross-country season.
Yeah.
Absolute shocker. 200 and something at NCAA cross. Wasn't sure I was going to come back that Christmas. Honestly, I don't think many people know that. But I wasn't sure I was going to come back. I wasn't enjoying it. It was a tough adjustment culture-wise. Yeah. Americans are very different to Brits. And especially kids.
Yeah.
Especially kids. I was 21.
At this point, 21, yeah.
I was 21 and just, I don't know what it is. I've got to be careful, but Europeans, I think, are more mature at that age. Yeah. I don't know whether it's drinking or whatever.
Yeah, they're really drinking age.
At 18. And I went to some parties when I was 21 and some of the kids were extremely immature at the parties.
Yeah.
And
so like National Lampoons, like sorority house kind of thing.
Yeah, it was an adjustment for sure. Getting to know everybody, getting to click with them, and create relationships. But I think it's like that for everybody. It's a big culture change, and it took me that first term for sure. I went back at Christmas and spoke to my parents, and they're like, "Well, you don't have to go back if you don't want to." But I knew I was going back because if I wanted to make it as a professional athlete, I had to see this through. Like, this was the place that was going to get me better.
Sure.
And so I went back and we saw how it go that first year and make it cool. And as soon as I got back indoor, I was in shape in the fall as well. That was sort of so strange. Like, I was in good shape. I just couldn't race. Went back indoor though, and I qualified for nationals and I ran 7:52 that indoor season.
That's 3,000 meters.
Yeah, the 3K, and sixth in the final in the 3K. And third in the DMR, so I had a really good indoor.
Yeah, great.
I anchored the DMR like 3:57, I think, that season.
Yeah.
And after that, had a good outdoor, 3:37.
Yeah. 3:36.6, right?
Yeah, and then went back home for the anniversary games in London and ran 36.6, and that was a big improvement.
So now you're 22. You finished at Oregon. You're on 37, which is really good for a collegian, obviously. And then you go back to the UK. You go to Olympic Stadium in London.
Yeah,
which is a big deal.
Yeah,
right?
That was the first big one for me.
And you go and run 3:36.6.
Yeah, that was big. Yeah.
So just to be clear, you had a rough crop. You were fit in cross country.
Yeah.
But you had a rough racing season.
Yeah.
You nearly decided to not come back.
Yeah.
Your parents, like, just you need to call them now and thank them.
Yeah.
Convince you to, like, if you want to go back, go back. Like, but you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
And then that probably made you like, I'll go back.
I'll go back.
So you come back and you absolutely just murder it on the track.
Yeah, I mean that first year was funny as well because West Regionals. I mean, this is what is also so great about, I think, the story I have is I've never made an NCAA outdoors.
Right.
I'm probably the fastest guy in NCAA history to not make an outdoor championship. And that first year I didn't qualify for the regionals.
Yeah.
I was in a 4-minute 1500 heat at West Region. Yeah. 2 guys fell over. It was an absolute mess. Yeah. And I came like 6th in the heat in 4 flat, and it was like absolutely devastating. Yeah. I ran 3:37 about 3 weeks before. Right. I was maybe in shape to make the final at NCAAs, I don't know. But then the next year we came back and was like, right, we're going to put this right. And I got DQ'd for a false start at the West Region in my second year, round 2. And 2 weeks later, I went and ran 3:35
and
Invitational.
And that was in Seattle.
That was in Seattle. Yeah. 2 weeks later, a week after NCAAs happened. And that was really tough because at the time I thought that was my last year at Oregon. Yeah. I didn't know I was going to come back for another year, and he DQ'd me for that full start, and I thought, oh, that's that. Right,
so you got DQ'd in the 1500 for a false start.
For a false start at round 2. Yeah. One race away from NCAAs,
But you redeemed yourself, which of course, knowing the economics behind the NCAA, had you run 3:35 at the NCAA champs and potentially obviously won it, that would have been a whole different game. I mean, you probably wouldn't be sitting here right now, honestly.
Maybe not.
Your life might have changed a little bit, right?
Might change, yeah.
You might have been offered something then.
I think what's an interesting point to note there is that Monday after the NCAAs, I turned up to training and I was training with a bunch of guys, and I broke down in tears at training because it meant so much to me making an NCAA championships that season because I didn't make it the year before. Yeah. That was a rough day. I remember that pretty clearly. And Ben was like, well, let's try and go on with the season because there's still plenty to do. And at that point in time, I did not want to run anymore. I had Portland the week after, Portland Twilight. and I ran 3:37 somehow behind Craig Engels.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm in shape. Maybe see what we can do. And then around 2 weeks later, I ran the 3:35 at Brooks. And it just shows you, like, when you have those moments when you really question whether you want to run anymore, you've got to stick with it because you never know what's around the corner.
Right.
For sure.
Just because you had, like championship racing, like in this case, regionals, it's so different, right? Like it's tactical. There's a bunch of messing up that's going on.
Yeah.
You run 4 flat, which is nearly 8 seconds slower per lap than your PB, right?
Yeah.
So obviously you're in better shape than that. You're fitter than that. And it's easy to say, oh, I ran 4 minutes. I ran 4 minutes. I'm a 2:37 guy.
Yeah.
Right. And then like think that you're out of shape, right? But obviously you're not. It's contextual. Then you come back and you bounce back after crying, you can cry about it. You come back, you're on 3:37 or 3:35. So that's a good message there. Like sometimes things go wrong, but it doesn't mean that something's wrong with you.
Yeah, definitely.
So now we're here. Like we just talked through this, but at Oregon, big jump that spring year, and then the next year 3:35, and now it's April 30th.
Yeah.
2020. You were able to run a little bit of indoors.
Yeah.
Not the NCAA, obviously. And then now, obviously there's no racing, right? So you're here in Flagstaff. Are there things you can kind of talk about where you are now, what your plan is?
Yeah,
or
sure.
Is that sort of like top secret now? Or?
The basis of it is I can talk about it. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely considering whether to go pro right now or go back. I'm sure there's a number of seniors doing the same thing. I know there are some of the NAU boys and the Arizona guy is. So it's the market's not good right now for going pro, which is pretty obvious.
Market's not good for anything. Right?
Not good for anything. The economy's plummeting. Yeah. So I mean, it's a tough decision right now. I'm just getting some training in. I'm in really good shape. First time I've ever been up to Flag, so I thought it was a great opportunity to come up here and do some. Do some work. I'm here for 2 months. Really enjoying it. But I'm talking to some agents here and there, and we'll make a decision. I've got to make a decision soon for Oregon. They'd like me to come back. I'll have just outdoor.
No cross country, no indoors.
No cross, no indoor. I don't think. Just outdoor. And
is Oregon appealing for indoors though?
Not indoors. I think cross they're trying to appeal for. Definitely, I think there's a no on indoor. Not really sure why, because
how would cross be a possibility that indoors?
Just because of what I did in the UK. I didn't run much cross.
Oh, for you specifically, I thought you had the team.
Oh no, just for me individually. Yeah, so there might be a cross there for me, but maybe not.
Gotcha.
And we'll see whether I if the right deal comes along. Yeah, I think I'd like to move on. I'm 24 now. 3 years at Oregon, had an amazing time. If the right deal doesn't come along, then definitely love to go back and try making outdoor championships and win at the new Hayward would be incredible. Opportunity. So it's nice to have that backup right now and plenty of time to make a decision. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, so I think just I really want to sit down with James because we've had a couple of conversations the last few weeks, and I asked him for some data and he gave me this, and the nerd that I am, I put this graph together and hopefully you guys can see this progression, how outstanding it is. And hopefully this talk sort of gave you some a bit of insight as to what a really sort of like gradual progression looks like, and not overdoing it as a youngster. So just to top it off there, James, what would be 2 or 3 sort of tips or suggestions or recommendations you'd have for high school runners, like whether they're grade 9 or grade 12, like what's the best thing you can tell them?
I think the key thing, and one of the reasons why I think I am where I am now today, is because my coach when I was 14, 15 was always holding me back on the mileage, on the training. I'd always want to be competing with guys who are much better than me, and I just wasn't there, like puberty-wise, like maturation-wise. And had he let me go and train that hard, maybe I'd have like long-lasting, issues, because I know a lot. I think the overtraining thing, basically what I'm getting is the overtraining at a young age. I think it's very key that you train with your maturation level, right? And if you try and overtrain at too young, you leave no room for improvement. When you start to mature, you have no room for the mileage improvement as well. So I think it's really key, like the progression we have there on the graph is every year you're adding a little bit more based on your maturation level. And like to some of the, I know it's different over here because the high school, you want to run well at high school over here to get a scholarship.
Sure.
And there's a big incentive to running fast. You get, you know, your whole tuition paid for. But if you want to really make it at the top level, you do not want to be overtraining at a young age,
sure.
Because it will stunt your growth later on. And
when you mean growth, you mean like progression?
Yes, performance. Yeah. So I think that's a really key point. Second one, I think the highs and the lows are really, it's really important to keep on an even keel.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I have those DQs and not getting through regionals and things like that, and if you run PBs, it's important to like not get too high on the highs and too low on the lows.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thing I always say when we see these pros and these, you know, Matthew Centric's winning Olympic gold and all of these guys, you don't see what they had to go through from 16 to 22.
Of course.
Because that's never documented, is it?
Yeah.
We never see the lows that they had.
Yeah.
Now, I've had some pretty good lows in my time already. I'm only 24. And I bet Usain Bolt had some pretty low lows as well.
Sure, yeah.
And it's really important that people understand that there are going to be points in the sport where you really question if you want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that make it, the ones that push through those points and come out the other side. And you really grow from those moments.
And you proved that earlier when you said like you had a real low.
Yeah.
You didn't make the NCs at your last year.
Yeah.
And you thought, oh, this is it for me. Right? Well, you know, this year could have been it, but you know, of course you didn't get to compete.
Yeah.
But so you had this low, and then you just sort of had a good cry about it, but came back strong. So that's a good testament there.
Yeah.
And then I guess what about like the whole relaxed and being relaxed?
Yeah, for sure. I think learning what works for you is really important, but just being relaxed in your process, not getting uptight about the little nitty-gritty things like the diet. Diet's important in sport, and everyone will tell you that, but it's being comfortable with your diet, being comfortable with the pace of your runs. Like if it's something that's going to affect you, then you need to understand what affects you and make changes and adapt those things to make sure that they work for you. Like the runs I was saying the other day when I go for a run with you, and 7:20, 7:30, it's important that your easy days are really easy. If you want to have a beer, if you want to have some junk food, have it, because it's going to help you relax and recover for the next day. And that's really important. So yeah, I think getting uptight as a runner and stressed is the worst thing that you can do, for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So James, really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad I stayed an extra day here to be able to chat with you. So if you guys want to follow James on Instagram, it's J_Westy96. Right, so J_Westy96. And you know, looking forward to seeing what the we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Now, who knows, right? But hopefully, you get to compete soon, like everybody else. And then you know, if you go to the NCAA again, hopefully you get to redeem those regionals.
Sure.
If not, then hopefully you get to represent GB.
Yeah.
Olympics.
Yeah. It's the goal.
Sweet. All right, man.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Max.